The moment her lips touched his, I felt the world tilt. I didn't scream, didn't throw my wine glass, didn't even flinch. I just sat there, 8 months pregnant with twins, my hands resting on my belly, watching the woman who thought she could steal my husband right in front of me. She was tall, blonde, and wore a dress that screamed money, everything I wasn't. But I didn't care. I smiled, picked up my phone, and made one call. That's all it took. One call that turned their little power play into the biggest mistake of their lives. Before I tell you how I brought down a billionaire with 3 text messages and a lawyer on speed dial, hit that subscribe button. You're going to want to follow me after this because what I did, it's a masterclass. Now let me take you back to the night my whole world shifted. My name is Kira Johnson, and I used to believe in fairy tales. Not the princess kind. I'm too practical for that. But the kind where hard work, loyalty, and love actually mean something. Where building a life with someone is sacred. Where vows aren't just pretty words you say in front of people eating overpriced chicken. I was 35, 8 months pregnant with twin girls, and sitting across from my husband Malik at La Belle Étoile, this ridiculously expensive French restaurant where our story began 7 years ago. He proposed to me there at the same table. Actually, I remember thinking it was romantic that he'd booked the same spot for our anniversary. Looking back, the man just lacked imagination. I should have known something was wrong. For months, Malik had been different, distant, always on his phone. Coming home late, smelling like perfume that definitely wasn't mine. My best friend Tasha kept telling me to pay attention, but I kept making excuses. He's stressed about work. He's nervous about becoming a father. He's adjusting to the idea of twins. I had an excuse for everything because admitting the truth meant admitting I'd been a fool. That night, I wore a deep blue maternity dress that cost more than it should have, but made me feel beautiful despite looking like I'd swallowed a beach ball. Malik barely looked at me. He was checking his watch, glancing at the door, his leg bouncing under the table, like he was expecting someone. And he was. She walked in like she owned the place. Simone Carter, tall, thin, blonde, everything I'm not, which I'm sure was part of the appeal. She worked at Malik's investment firm, or so I've been told the one time he mentioned her. Just a colleague, he'd said. Nobody important. Funny how the nobody important people always turn out to be the most important ones in the story. Simone walked straight to our table, didn't hesitate, didn't ask permission. She leaned down, grabbed Malik by his face, and kissed him. Not a peck, not an accident, a full intention. This is my man kiss right there in front of me, in front of the entire restaurant, in front of God and everybody. The room went silent. You know that moment in movies where everything stops, and all you can hear is your own heartbeat. It's real. I could hear mine pounding in my ears, feel my daughters moving in my belly like they knew their mama's world was crumbling. Malik froze. He didn't push her away immediately, and that hesitation told me everything I needed to know. When he finally did step back, his face wasn't shocked or angry. It was caught, guilty, terrified. I didn't scream, didn't cry, didn't throw my water in her face, though I definitely thought about it. Instead, I looked at Malik and asked one simple question. How long? He couldn't even answer me. Just sat there with his mouth opening and closing like a fish out of water. So Simone answered for him, perching herself on the edge of our table like she belonged there. 18 months, she said, smiling. Actually smiling. And before you make a scene, you should know he was going to leave you anyway. I'm just speeding up the process. 18 months. I did the math in my head. That meant he was sleeping with her when we found out I was pregnant, when we picked out names for our daughters, when we toured preschools and argued about whether to do a nursery theme or keep it neutral. He was building a whole other life while I was building our family. But Simone wasn't done. Oh, and I'm pregnant too, she announced, patting her flat stomach. 3 months. Malik and I are going to be a real family. You're just practicing. Malik finally found his voice. Kira, let me explain. Explain what? I asked calmly. Too calmly. Explain how you've been planning to divorce me after I give birth because it's easier to get custody when I'm postpartum and unstable. Because baby, I read your emails. I've known for weeks. His face went pale. Simone's smile faltered, and that's when I stood up, hoisted myself up as much as a woman carrying twins can, and excused myself to the restroom. In that bathroom with its fancy marble counters and soft lighting, I made 3 phone calls. First to Marcus Reed, my lawyer, the one I'd kept on retainer. Not because I expected this, but because my grandmother taught me to always have my own legal protection. Marcus, I said, it's time. Execute everything we discussed. The second call was to Naomi-chan, my accountant. Naomi, freeze the accounts, all of them, and start the audit. The third call was to Tasha. Bring the boxes. Bring everything. It's happening tonight. Then I washed my hands, reapplied my lipstick, and walked back to that table with my head high. Malik and Simone were arguing in whispers, probably trying to figure out what I meant about reading his emails. I sat down, picked up my menu, and said, "Since we're here, I'm ordering dessert. The chocolate souffle takes 20 minutes, and I want to make sure I'm still here when the real show starts. Let me back up and tell you how I got to this moment. Because this didn't happen overnight. Malik and I met 10 years ago. He was a junior analyst with big dreams and no money. I was building my fashion design business from scratch. We fell in love over cheap wine and even cheaper takeout. He said I was his inspiration, his reason to work harder. I believed him. When he got into business school, I paid his tuition, used my entire inheritance from my grandmother. $200,000 that was supposed to be my safety net. It's an investment in our future, he said. Our future, not his future, ours. When he started his first investment fund, I gave him another $50,000 to get it off the ground. Introduced him to my clients. The doors he opened couldn't open. Everything Malik built, we built together. Or so I thought. 3 years ago when we bought our dream house, I designed every inch of it. Spent months creating the perfect space. But Malik insisted we put everything in his name. Tax purposes, he said. Estate planning. It's smarter this way. I trusted him. I signed papers without reading them closely, because you don't expect the person you love to be setting up your destruction. But here's what Malik didn't know about me. I kept receipts. Every single one, every bank transfer, every check, every contribution to his business ventures. I had emails documenting my role in his success. I had witnesses who could testify that his major deals came through my connections. My grandmother didn't just leave me money. She left me wisdom. Never let a man make you financially invisible. She told me, always keep proof of what you built. Sitting at that table watching Simone and Malik sweat, I knew they thought they'd won. They thought I was just some pregnant woman who'd fall apart and make their lives easier. They had no idea what was coming. The next morning I woke up early. Made Malik his favorite breakfast. Blueberry pancakes with real maple syrup. Kissed him goodbye like nothing had happened. He looked confused, relieved, maybe a little suspicious. Are we okay? He asked. I smiled. We're perfect, baby. Have a good day at work. The second his car pulled out of the driveway, my team arrived. Marcus brought his associates. Naomi brought forensic accountants. Tasha brought moving boxes. We had 8 hours before Malik came home. And we were going to use every single minute. Turns out that prenup Malik was so confident about was never properly notarized. The witness signatures were forged, probably by Simone based on the handwriting analysis. That meant the prenup was invalid. Everything we acquired during our marriage was community property. And since my money funded his initial ventures, I had a claim to a significant portion of his assets. The house, my intellectual property. I designed it, and I had documentation proving my design work was the primary value. The court agreed to let me stay while the divorce proceedings happened. Malik would have to leave. His investment firm about to be investigated for fraud, not because of anything I made up, but because I'd noticed irregularities months ago and reported them to the Securities and Exchange Commission. I'd been watching Malik's business dealings carefully, and something wasn't adding up. Turns out he'd been cooking the books, inflating returns, taking money from new investors to pay old ones. Classic scheme, sloppy execution. When Malik came home that evening, he found his belongings in boxes on the front lawn. I'd changed the locks legally with court approval. Marcus was there to serve him with divorce papers, a restraining order, and a notice of the SEC investigation. His face went from confused to angry to absolutely terrified in about 30 seconds. You can't do this, he said. This is my house, my company, my life. No, baby, I replied from the doorway, one hand on my belly. This is my house, built with my design on land purchased with my money. That company started with my capital. And that life you were planning with Simone was built on fraud, lies, and really poor planning. Simone showed up an hour later screeching about how this wasn't fair. How Malik loved her. How they were going to be together. That's when I dropped the real bomb. Simone, honey, you're not pregnant. You lied about that to pressure Malik into leaving me faster. But here's the thing. I hired a private investigator. You've been pulling this same scheme at 3 other companies. Got yourself fired twice for sleeping with married executives. This was just your latest hustle. Her face confirmed everything. She wasn't in love with Malik. She wanted the lifestyle, the money, the status. She thought she'd found an easy mark in a guilty man willing to blow up his life, but she picked the wrong wife to cross. The fallout was spectacular. Malik's firm fired him pending investigation. His assets got frozen. Simone got fired for ethics violations and was facing her own legal troubles for fraud. They turned on each other so fast it would have been funny if it wasn't so pathetic. Malik blamed Simone for seducing him. Simone blamed Malik for making promises he couldn't keep. Neither of them took responsibility for the fact that they were both terrible people who deserved each other. 3 weeks later I went into labor. Tasha drove me to the hospital at 2 in the morning while Malik was who knows where doing who knows what. I didn't care anymore. He wasn't part of this story anymore. My daughters, Aaliyah and Zara, came into this world healthy and perfect with 10 fingers, 10 toes, and a mother who would move heaven and earth to protect them. Malik has supervised visitation rights, 2 hours every other Saturday in a facility with witnesses. He has to pay child support based on his previous income, which means he's struggling to make ends meet while working retail and fighting legal battles he can't afford. Simone moved back to her hometown with no job, no prospects, and a reputation that followed her online. Last I heard, she's working at a call center, and Malik isn't returning her messages. As for me, I'm thriving. That night at the restaurant when Simone kissed Malik, someone recorded it. The video went viral not because people were laughing at me but because of what happened after. Someone caught me on their phone making those calls in the bathroom, looking calm and determined. The internet dubbed me the strategic queen, and suddenly my design firm was getting calls from everyone. Women who wanted someone who understood the importance of having your own space, your own security, your own power. I just landed a contract to design an entire luxury apartment complex. The developer is a woman who went through her own divorce and wanted to work with someone who got it. My business is booming. My daughters are healthy and happy. I'm writing a book about financial literacy for women, about protecting yourself legally, about the importance of keeping your own records and never making yourself invisible in your own life. 6 months after that night, I ran into Malik at a coffee shop. He looked tired, worn down, like the weight of his choices finally caught up with him. He asked if we could talk. I said no. He asked if I hated him. I told him the truth. I don't hate you, Malik. I just don't think about you at all anymore. That's the real power move, isn't it? Not revenge, not making his life miserable. Though I'll admit there's some satisfaction in watching karma work. The real power is in moving forward, in building something better, in refusing to let someone else's betrayal define your story. People ask me all the time how I stayed so calm that night, how I didn't break down or cause a scene. The truth is, I did break down later in private with Tasha holding my hand while I cried for the future I thought I'd have. But at that moment, at that table, I knew that falling apart would give them what they wanted. They wanted me to be emotional, unstable, easy to dismiss. So I refused. I stayed calm, stayed smart, and let my preparation do the talking. That's what I want you to understand. This story isn't about how to get revenge on a cheating partner. It's about how to protect yourself before you ever need protection. It's about keeping your own bank accounts, your own credit, your own paper trail. It's about reading every document before you sign it. It's about trusting your instincts when something feels off instead of making excuses. Most importantly, it's about knowing your worth. Simone thought she won by stealing a man who wasn't worth keeping. Malik thought he was smart enough to erase my contributions and start fresh. They both learned the hard way that underestimating a woman who's been paying attention is the biggest mistake you can make. My daughters will grow up knowing their mother didn't fall apart when life got hard. They'll know she stood up, fought back, and built something better from the ashes. They'll know that being smart is better than being loud, that patience is more powerful than revenge, and that sometimes the best thing you can do is smile, make a phone call, and let the consequences do the rest. If this story taught you anything, it's this. Protect yourself, keep your receipts, and never let anyone make you feel crazy for paying attention. Now I need you to do 3 things. First, subscribe so you never miss how I handle the custody trial. Next, second, like this video if you believe in strategic revenge over petty revenge. And third, comment below what you would have done in my situation. Trust me, there's more to this story. And Simone is about to find out you don't mess with a woman who's been planning her exit strategy since the first red flag. See you in the next one.